Hello, beautiful souls. So, I had a podcast idea for what I wanted to talk about today, and I started to work on creating some kind of outline for this video. But then, as I was writing and speaking and feeling into this idea, so much information started pouring through. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to turn on the record button and I am going to start speaking on this because there's so much information coming through that I want to share with you on this. And so if you are new here, welcome. My name is Infinity, and this is Magnetize Yourself, where we talk about life, love, spirituality, and of course, the law of attraction. Today, I'm doing something really special because I am doing a podcast style video for the first time in a long time. And I feel that this is a collective manifestation. So thank you for being here as a co-creator on the channel. And if you do want to tune your energy into our community in a more powerful way and co-create along with me here, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel and also to like this video because it's a form of energetic transference that often helps me to pick up on your energy more easily in our collective and channel more specifically for you when it comes to future podcast ideas, but also my reading videos as well. So the topic of today's video is 3 ways the divine masculine feels twin flame love differently from the divine feminine within a twin flame connection. This is something I really want to speak on because many divine feminines find the twin flame experience to be really confusing because they are confused as to how it's possible that they can have an equally strong connection to their divine masculine as they have to them, when often what's manifesting and what's happening in the physical is so different on both sides. So when they hear teachers or speakers talk about how both twin flames are equally feeling the energy and experiencing the connection, which really from some perspective is true because they are both receiving this massive transfer of energy upon meeting. It's what happens when 2 twin flames consciously meet in the physical world. There is a huge energetic transfer that takes place between the 2 of them. And this transfer mostly happens dominantly through the heart, but it circulates throughout all the chakra centers. And so it can be confusing because if you know that this is happening for both counterparts, then of course it begs the question, why is it that so often the divine feminine seems to almost immediately recognize that there is a spiritual connection happening here? And she often even goes through a whole awakening spiritually, whereas for the divine masculine, it often seems like he gets overwhelmed or shuts down or runs away. And again, every twin flame connection is very different. So we can't speak to every single connection, but this is a pattern that happens very frequently between twin flames. And I want to explain why this happens by giving an explanation for how the divine masculine actually experiences twin flame love entirely differently from his divine feminine counterpart. So the first way that the divine masculine experiences twin flame love differently is that he experiences it more like a visceral physical pull in the beginning. And in fact, for the divine masculine, this will be the strongest sense of physical attraction he's ever had in his life to anyone ever, more than he ever really could have even imagined possible. Now, the reason for this intense physical attraction that he feels to the divine feminine is actually energetic. So like I said, there's this huge energy transfer that takes place between both counterparts. However, the divine masculine polarity is focused in the lower chakra centers, so the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and the solar plexus, whereas the divine feminine is naturally oriented towards the upper chakra centers, so the crown chakra, the third eye chakra, and the throat chakra. And then, of course, the heart chakra is right in the middle of the chakra system. And so essentially, when twin flames experience this energy transfer for the divine feminine, it comes through the uppermost chakra initially, which is the crown chakra, which is connected to the divine, to our own soul, to spirituality, to our spiritual connection, to our guides, to our higher self. Whereas for the divine masculine, the energy first enters the root chakra, which is most connected to the physical world, and especially our sense of safety in the world, which, by the way, is why we could get into this as well. But it's part of why meeting their divine feminine can actually cause an overwhelm that makes them shut down, because they feel ungrounded in the root chakra, which is their sense of security and safety. It's like there's so much energy being received through the root chakra that they naturally start to feel a little bit ungrounded or a little bit destabilized by the connection. But anyway, it also goes through the solar plexus. Well, first the sacral, then the solar plexus. But when it reaches the sacral, there's that intense feeling of attraction, because the sacral is so connected to our sense of sensuality, to our most intimate relationships and connections. So there's this deep sense of connectedness physically to the divine feminine. But what happens for the masculine is, because the twin flame energy is entering these lower chakra centers first, he can often mistake the entire twin flame connection in the beginning, not in the long term. And we'll get into that later on in the video. But in the beginning, the divine masculine can actually mistake the connection for being purely physical attraction. So he might try to logically overwrite the connection by saying things like to himself, like, well, I am just so attracted to the divine feminine that it's just purely physical. Like I'm just feeling such a physical attraction that is why I can't stop thinking about her, or that is why I feel so drawn to her. So often he doesn't realize initially that this is a soul connection, because he feels it so intensely on a physical level that his logic is telling him this must just be pure physical attraction and a connectedness physically. Now, for the divine feminine, twin flame love is the exact opposite, because the energy actually hits her crown chakra first. Not to say that those feelings of attraction wouldn't be there, but usually when she connects with her divine masculine, it is almost like this instantaneous soul knowing. And it's this cognizant sensation of like, whoa, this is the person, the soul that I've been connected with my entire life. And connecting consciously with her divine masculine causes the divine feminine to suddenly become very in tune with her soul, often even with her spiritual gifts. It will awaken dormant spiritual gifts and abilities through the crown chakra almost instantaneously. And I know that many of you who are divine feminines have experienced something like this in your own life. Then when it moves to the third eye chakra for the divine feminine, it activates her intuition in such a powerful way. And so this can feel like a cracking open energetically, where suddenly it becomes, in some cases, painfully obvious to her in what ways she has been veering away from or off of her own highest path. It's like she can suddenly see her life with such clarity and see the ways in which she may have been betraying her own intuition or not listening to or trusting herself. It will also often open the throat chakra for the divine feminine. So there is this very strong desire for constant communication with the masculine, because he's opening this throat chakra energy, and she feels so connected to her own truth, but also she can really feel that energy of the both of them being on the same wavelength and being able to communicate in this open, unfiltered kind of way. And so the reason that when twin flames consciously meet and consciously connect in this world, become aware of each other, all of this amplifies and this energy transfer happens, because technically this is a transfer that's been happening on some level, not just your entire life, but every single lifetime, because twin flames carry the same core soul energy. And what this does is it essentially puts them on the same frequency bandwidth kind of level. You could think of it sort of like walkie-talkies, where if you set your walkie-talkie on your end to the same level or the same number as someone else's, you can hear each other really clearly. So for twin flames, this happens naturally. They are always on the same level in a way spiritually. So they're able to hear and to sense and to feel each other so strongly. But when this is unconscious, meaning before they consciously meet or connect, they will often almost like take it for granted in a way, like they will try to write it off or explain it in certain ways. But when they meet consciously, it's like putting a face and a name to this energy that they'd always felt was being transferred with them, and this energy that they'd always felt connected to. And so being able to have that focus on it in a more conscious way is what causes that massive energy transfer at the point of conscious meeting or connection in this lifetime for twin flames. That was just a little bit of an aside, but something I also wanted to talk about. So the last thing I have to say on this is that energy is actually being pulled for both counterparts to the heart chakra. And so this is going to become important later. For the divine masculine, it's being pulled up from the root chakra to the heart. And for the divine feminine, it's being pulled down from the crown chakra to the heart. So we'll get into that later, but it's something important to know at this point so that what I talk about later makes sense. But the second way that the divine masculine feels twin flame love differently is that for the divine masculine, absence in the physical of the divine feminine actually amplifies the soul recognition. And this is why so often when you as a divine feminine truly detach from your twin flame consciously, meaning you choose to set boundaries that are healthy and self-supportive for you, you choose to refocus on yourself, on your mission, on whatever it is you are doing or creating in this world, and you maybe even pull back your communication or your physical interaction from the masculine. This is why so often this becomes a massive wake-up call for the divine masculine, and that is the moment where they really feel a sense of urgency and begin to realize that there is actually a spiritual component to this connection, which up until that point, they may have been, like we said in point one, just kind of assuming that it was a purely physical connection. So the reason that this happens for the masculine is because the masculine naturally, as a whole polarity, tends to be more logically oriented. So if they can explain something using logic and reason, that is how they will explain it. And so when it comes to twin flame connection, when they meet their divine feminine and feel this intense physical attractiveness and this pull, and maybe they're experiencing even a lot of signs or synchronicities, the tendency of the masculine initially is to try and write it off consciously and logically in some kind of way. But the reason that then the divine feminine's absence will amplify the divine masculine's recognition of the soul bond is because logic no longer fits. There's no way for them to explain why now in the divine feminine's absence, they are still feeling everything so strongly. They are still experiencing so many signs about the connection. They are still feeling her energy being transferred with them so consciously. And specifically, it's the unforgettable nature of this bond that comes through during that time, which is really going to lead me to point 3, which is the third way the divine masculine experiences twin flame love differently is it's often something that has to be revealed slowly to them over time. This is for a couple reasons. One reason being that the divine masculine energy, because it's coming from, or because the divine masculine polarity is centered more in the lower chakra centers. So when they connect with a twin flame, a divine feminine, the twin flame energy is coming up through the root chakra. Those are much denser, slower moving energy centers than the upper chakras. Our chakra centers are not like these stagnant portals. They are like moving spirals of energy constantly in motion. But the lower chakra centers, especially the root chakra, is incredibly dense, which means it's moving at a much slower rate. Whereas the crown chakra is moving at a much higher rate. And so for the divine feminine, when she receives this twin flame energy through the crown chakra, that is why there is almost this instantaneous sense of recognition and knowing and a spontaneous spiritual awakening. Whereas for the divine masculine, there's this much more slow moving process that takes place. It has to do with how quickly the energy centers are moving that they are receiving that twin flame energy through. And so for the divine masculine, time often allows this energy to slowly work its way through the root chakra. And again, that energy is being pulled up to the heart for the masculine. So it moves through the root, through the sacral, through the solar plexus, again, often over the course of like months or years. And finally, it reaches the heart. And once it reaches the heart chakra for the divine masculine, that is when they are actually able to more easily access the conscious emotions that they're feeling for the feminine. Often prior to that point, they aren't able to consciously feel in a full-blown way the intense emotional experience of twin flame love, the intense emotions for their divine feminine. And so over the course of time, this energy has to work its way through those lower chakra centers. And so for the divine feminine, this can lead to a lot of confusion and complication because she metabolizes that energy so quickly through the upper chakra centers that she reaches her heart very fast and feels all of the emotions in the heart space often very quickly. Whereas for the masculine, there's almost this tendency to get a little bit stuck in those lower chakra realms in a way, to get stuck when they feel like overwhelmed or unsafe. And then this twin flame energy is not only moving through these lower chakras, but triggering any abandonment wounds, any rejection wounds, any wounds around safety, any childhood traumas that they may have experienced. All of that is being triggered. Those blockages are being triggered. And so at many points, the masculine may get a bit overwhelmed and have to kind of sit with that energy for a period of time. But what creates the urgency or what speeds up this process is often the absence of the divine feminine, because it begins to pull him towards the heart in a stronger way. When the masculine no longer has a logical explanation for why he is feeling this way for the feminine, meaning when she isn't just present all the time, over giving, over self-sacrificing all the time, he suddenly has to ask himself the deeper questions about this connection. Like, why am I still thinking of the feminine? Why can't I let this go? Why am I still feeling all of this so intensely? And so that will pull this energy up through those blockages and to the heart much more quickly. But if he's constantly using the divine feminine as a bridge, meaning she is so present and so available and overgiving all of the time, that he doesn't have to pull himself up to the heart and process all of this on his end, then often he will use this as a crutch and get stuck in some of those like looping blockages in the lower chakra centers. And this is often what we see in twin flame dynamics, where twin flames will be in some form of communication or connection physically, but the divine feminine will be like feeling drained or exhausted, or like she's overgiving and kind of betraying herself in a way. The reason for this is because in those instances, she's trying to be the bridge instead of sitting on and staying in the heart space, staying in that magnetic center of the heart and letting the divine masculine be called up to the heart space with her. Which, speaking of this, if you would like a tool to help you to really stay in your heart on the twin flame journey, to also clear out all of these blockages that we've been talking about through all of these 7 chakra centers within your twin flame connection, then I've created a tool that will be really powerful for you. And this is my twin flame 7 chakra clearing subliminal. So this will not only help you to clear out any blockages you may be storing in any of your chakra centers that could be preventing a reunion or a coming together more harmoniously with your twin flame in the physical, but it also at the same time assist your twin in clearing these blockages as well because of the way in which the two of you are connected. And it's meant to align you with that very powerful magnetic frequency of unconditional love. So it will really keep you centered and grounded in the heart space. There are affirmations contained within this subliminal for every single chakra center. So every chakra is addressed for your twin flame connection, and it works through the portal of your subconscious mind, which research shows it's really our subconscious that controls 95% of our thoughts, actions, and outcomes in this life. So using subliminals to shift what's happening in your subconscious can be so powerful for helping you to manifest your desires in life. So this subliminal comes from my app, Sound and Soulful, and you can get the app in the Google Play Store or Apple App Store, but I will also leave a direct link to it in the pinned comment and description box underneath this video. If this connected for you, leave me a comment. Let me know what resonated. Also, do you want to hear more on either this topic or some kind of related topic? Because I would love to do more podcast style videos like this for all of you. If you haven't yet, of course, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, join our beautiful community here on YouTube, and otherwise, I am sending you huge amounts of love. Have an amazing day, and I will connect with you here again in the next video.